My name is Sarah LaRose, and this is my final presentation for Marketing Strategy, summer semester 2016. So in MarkStrat, I was in the alpha industry, and my team was Rocket. And that is what I would say, I rocked it. So I had a final share price index of 4,616 and a final period 6 market capture of 40.6%. And you can see just in the graph on the dark blue line just to see how I did as compared to other competitors in the alpha industry. And so one of my main strategy with MarkStrat was I ultimately wanted to target professionals, the shoppers, and the savers through 3 different products. So I started off with products Rock and Roll. And Rock originally targeted professionals, but Roll had originally targeted shoppers. So I really, Roll had originally targeted explorers. So I kind of redesigned Roll in order to move it into the shoppers segment, and then also Road. So you can see the performance of those 3 brands. I provided kind of average value market shares. And as you can see, over the course of the 6 periods, the average market value share for all of those brands was between 8 and 18%. So they definitely all did pretty well in capturing portions of the market. Now those brands specifically to target a few different segments. So as you can see, I did a pretty good job capturing the segments, the specific market segments that I set out to capture, the professionals, the shoppers, and the savers. And you can definitely see by this graph that, you know, Rock, that primarily got all the professionals, which is what that brand was targeted for. Roll, that was the primary brand, you know, getting the shoppers, and then contributed the most to my percent market share for the savers. Although I did not target high earners or explorers, you know, for a while during the simulation, Rock also was able to get quite a bit of business from high earners. So some of my keys to success in this presentation, first of all, segmentation. Shoppers, all the different people in the market really, you know, we're looking for different kind of product features. And so, you know, definitely you couldn't make just one product that was going to kind of, you know, take care of everyone. So you really had to pick exactly what segment that you wanted to go after. Selective targeting. I chose not to target the explorer and the high earners markets, and I feel because I was able to focus on the other 3 market segments. Careful analysis of customer needs. I spent so much time going through the conjoint analysis, multidimensional scaling, semantic scales, just in order to, you know, get an idea of exactly what customers were looking for. And then I spent a ton of time on R&D, and I guess that gets into the next thing, continuous R&D, to make sure that my products constantly evolving to meet those new customer needs. And then, of course, competitive pricing. Definitely had to make sure that pricing was in line with the ideal values that different segments of customers were looking for. So some missed opportunities. Definitely some things that I wish I could have changed were, first of all, my production estimates. You can kind of see the little chart below. The green areas are the periods in which I had adequate production, and all the red areas are ones in which I did not produce enough. So as you can see, I really missed the ability to sell a lot more of my product. on top of that, period 3 research and development. At period 3, I really skyrocketed up as far as my went, and I didn't pay as much attention to the fact that customer needs might still be changing a bit, and I didn't conduct any R&D that period. And the very next period, my roll product especially just kind of plummeted, and I really could have saved things a period early had I just invested in R&D during that period. And then finally, pricing. I started off strategy to undercut all of my competitors, and although it worked for the most part, what I realized I was doing towards the end of the simulation is that some of my pricing got so low, it was below the ideal values that several different market segments were looking for, and it actually cost me sales because pricing was set too low. So as far as if I had have done things a little differently over those periods, I definitely anticipate that I would have had substantially more sales from increased production, higher volume, higher value shares if I had increased pricing just a little bit, and certainly increased sales as well if I could have kind of gotten roll back on track a period sooner as opposed to waiting till period new R&D. So how does MarkStrat kind of apply to different marketing concepts that we talked about throughout the beginning classes? And so with regards to segmentation and marketing, in MarkStrat, you really had to choose specific market segments that you were going to, specifically design to attract. And you really couldn't like target, savers and professionals, for example, because they were looking for two totally different things. So you needed two totally separate products for that. Same thing. You wouldn't try to target both, super high earners in the real world with, people on a tight budget for car sales. People, high earners in the real world might want a high-end make and model car, where people who are on more of a budget might be looking for just an old beater that can get them from point A to point B. So you definitely want to make sure that your product is going after the right type of customer that would want to ultimately buy it. And so, of course, product is huge. In MarkStrat, you have being given all of your customers' ideal values. So how can you develop a product with the specific attributes that completely meet your customers' needs? But it's ultimately like that. Just in marketing in general, the idea is to try to, find that information, figure out what your customers' needs are, figure out what your customers' wants are, and ultimately make that product, sell itself, because it's exactly what your customer is looking for. For price, in MarkStrat, even the customers that weren't so adverse to high prices, like the professionals and the high earners, still took price still regarded price very, very highly. As you can see from the bar chart, which is taken directly from MarkStrat, every single customer segment rated price as the thing of highest importance with regards to characteristics of a product. And I know, just me as a shopper, I certainly, price is always a huge factor whenever I'm looking at anything, from as small as clothes to something as big as a car or definitely, you price your product in order to attract certain customers. So place in general. So ultimately, in MarkStrat, there were certain things that you would do in order to position your brand to make it sell the best. You would, not just target certain customers, but then when you figure you want to target and you set that price point, that's exactly what your customers are looking for, you still have to figure out the image that you need to give to that product. So how do you focus your advertising on that customer segment? And then on top of that, where do you make that product available? And certainly you want to make that product available in a place where your customers are going to. Strat you chose from a few different distribution channels based on what customers were more likely to shop in certain areas, and that's really similar to just about anything. And as just a general example, I have on the slide, you wouldn't sell stone clubs for a caveman in the middle of a high-end mall because that's just not where the customer is going to shop. So ultimately, you have to make sure that your brand is ultimately positioned and set in such a way that it speaks to your target market segment. And so finally, promotion. In MarkStrat, you promoted your products through your advertising budget. And the more money you could spend on advertising, you could use that, develop large brand awareness because you wanted to make sure that customers know about your product. No one's going to buy your product if they don't know what it is or they don't know about it. But you could also kind of set customers' ideas about your product, or kind of change their perceptions a little bit. And so that's done all the time in real life. In marketing, advertising is huge because you want to get out about your product and you want to make it seem very, very desirable to all of your potential customers. So with that being said, that is my presentation. Thank you so much for a wonderful semester.